The woman they tried to erase. I stood in that parking garage at 8:47 a.m., keys trembling in my hand, when a man I'd never seen grabbed my arm and said the words that would save my life. "Mrs. Hayes, don't sign anything upstairs. Your daughter-in-law isn't who you think she is." 64 years old, widow of 8 months, and about to walk into what I thought was a simple inheritance meeting. I had no idea I was stepping into an ambush designed to steal everything my husband built and destroy my mind in the process. If you want to see how far greed can twist a family, stay until the end. Like this video and comment what city you're watching from. I want to see how far my story travels. The elevator ride to the 14th floor lasted 43 seconds. I know because I counted every single one, my heartbeat hammering against my ribs like it was trying to break free. The stranger's warning kept replaying in my head, his voice urgent and raw. Don't trust what's waiting upstairs, especially not Vanessa. Vanessa, my son's wife. The woman who'd held my hand at Richard's funeral, who'd called me every Sunday for the past 3 months, who'd offered to handle all the complicated legal stuff so I wouldn't have to worry. The elevator dinged. The door slid open. I should have turned around right then. I should have walked straight back to my car, driven home, and called my own lawyer. But grief does strange things to your judgment, and I'd been drowning in it since the day my husband's heart gave out in our kitchen, coffee mug still in his hand. The law office of Morrison, Chen and Associates sprawled before me, all glass walls and leather furniture that probably cost more than my first car. A receptionist with perfect teeth smiled at me like she'd been practicing in a mirror. "Mrs. Hayes, they're waiting for you in conference room B, right this way." My shoes clicked against the marble floor. Each step felt heavier than the last. The receptionist opened a door, and I walked into a room that held 7 people, all of whom turned to look at me with expressions I couldn't quite read. Vanessa sat at the head of the table, my son Caleb beside her, looking thinner than I'd seen him in months. 3 people in expensive suits I didn't recognize, and a silver-haired man who stood up when I entered, extending his hand. "Mrs. Hayes, Martin Morrison, thank you so much for coming on such short notice." His handshake was firm, professional, the kind that's meant to convey trustworthiness. "Please have a seat. We have quite a bit to cover this morning." I sat down in the chair they'd left empty, directly across from Vanessa. She smiled at me, but it didn't reach her eyes. Something about the way she'd arranged herself, perfectly poised with a leather portfolio in front of her, made my stomach turn. "Mom," Caleb's voice cracked slightly. "How are you holding up?" "I'm fine, sweetheart." The lie came automatically. I hadn't been fine since April 14th, the day I became a widow. "What's this all about? You said it was about your father's will, but we already went through probate. Everything was settled." Martin Morrison cleared his throat. "Yes, well, that's actually why we're here. Some new information has come to light that requires us to revisit certain arrangements." One of the suits, a woman with sharp features and sharper eyes, opened a file folder. "Mrs. Hayes, I'm Jennifer Caldwell, representing the estate. We've become aware of some amendments to your late husband's will that were executed shortly before his death. Amendments that significantly alter the distribution of assets." The room suddenly felt smaller, colder. "Amendments?" I looked at Caleb, but he wouldn't meet my eyes. "Richard didn't mention any amendments. We discussed everything together. We always did." "Yes, well," Jennifer Caldwell's smile was practiced, empty. "Your husband expressed some concerns in his final weeks. Concerns about your ability to manage the estate's complexities. Concerns about your mental state." The words hit me like a physical blow. "My what?" Vanessa leaned forward, her face arranged in an expression of gentle sympathy that made my skin crawl. "Eleanor, we know this is difficult to hear, but Richard called me several times in March. He was worried about you, the memory lapses, the confusion. He said you'd left the stove on 3 times in 1 week, that you couldn't remember where you'd parked your car, that you'd accused him of hiding your medication when it was right in your purse." "That's not—" I started, but my voice caught, because I had left the stove on once. I had spent 20 minutes looking for my car in a grocery store parking lot. Grief and stress do things to your mind, make you forget simple tasks when you're drowning in loss. But 3 times, accusing Richard of hiding things? That never happened. We have documentation, Martin Morrison said smoothly, sliding a stack of papers across the table. Medical reports from Dr. Philip Westbrook, neurologist. He evaluated you last March at Richard's request. I stared at the papers. Dr. Westbrook's letterhead, official-looking signatures, dates and times of appointments I had absolutely no memory of attending. I never saw any Dr. Westbrook, I said, my voice shaking now. This is wrong. This is all wrong. Caleb finally spoke, and his voice was so quiet I almost didn't hear him. Mom, you don't remember a lot of things lately. Vanessa and I, we've been worried. The night of Dad's funeral, you introduced yourself to Aunt Carol 3 times. You asked me about my job interview at a company I haven't worked at in 5 years. I was in shock. The words came out louder than I intended. My husband had just died. Of course I was disoriented. The medical evidence suggests something more serious. Jennifer Caldwell's tone was so calm, so reasonable, it made me want to scream. Early onset dementia, cognitive decline. Your husband recognized the signs and took steps to protect the estate and to protect you. She slid another document toward me. This is the amended will. It places the entirety of Richard's assets, including the family business, the properties, and the financial holdings, into a trust managed by your son and daughter-in-law. You'll receive a generous monthly stipend, of course, and they'll ensure you get the care you need as your condition progresses. I couldn't breathe. The room was spinning, tilting on an axis that didn't make sense. Richard and I had built that business together back when we were barely 30 years old. I'd worked the books while he handled operations. I'd sacrificed sleep and weekends and family dinners to make it succeed. The properties, we'd chosen them together, negotiated the deals, celebrated each closing with cheap champagne because we couldn't afford the good stuff yet. And now they were telling me I wasn't competent enough to manage my own life. This is insane, I whispered. Richard would never. Richard was trying to protect you from yourself. Vanessa's voice was soft, pitying. He loved you so much, Eleanor. But he saw what was happening. He didn't want you to be taken advantage of by people who might exploit your condition. The third suit, a younger man who hadn't spoken yet, pushed a pen towards me. If you could just sign here, Mrs. Hayes, we can finalize everything today. It's really for the best. You'll be taken care of, and the estate will be managed responsibly. My hand moved toward the pen. I don't know why. Shock maybe, or the weight of all those eyes on me, all those professional voices telling me I was broken, incompetent, failing. Then I heard the stranger's voice again in my head. Don't sign anything. My fingers stopped an inch from the pen. I need to see my own lawyer, I said. The room went very quiet. Martin Morrison's smile tightened. Mrs. Hayes, I understand this is overwhelming, but delay will only complicate matters. The estate is in limbo. Business decisions are being held up. Your son and daughter-in-law are trying to honor Richard's wishes, but without your signature. I said I need to see my own lawyer. I stood up, my legs unsteady but holding. I'm not signing anything until I've had independent legal counsel review these documents. Mom, please. Caleb stood too, reaching for my arm. Don't make this harder than it has to be. We're trying to help you. I looked at my son, my only child, the boy I'd rocked to sleep and taught to ride a bike and watch grow into a man I was proud of. And I saw something in his eyes I'd never seen before. He believed them. He genuinely believed I was losing my mind. How long? I asked him. How long have you thought I was going crazy? He flinched. It's not like that. It's just the signs have been there for a while, Mom. The forgetfulness, the paranoia. Dr. Westbrook confirmed what we were already seeing. I never saw Dr. Westbrook. My voice broke. Don't you understand? I would remember going to a neurologist. I would remember tests, evaluations, diagnoses. Would you? Vanessa's question was gentle, devastating. Are you absolutely certain? Because 3 months ago you called me at 2 a.m. asking if I'd seen your wedding ring. You were wearing it, Eleanor. Right there on your finger, you were wearing it and you didn't know. The floor dropped out from under me. Because I did remember that call. I remembered the panic, the certainty that I'd lost something irreplaceable. And I remembered Vanessa's patient voice telling me to check my hand, and the flood of relief when I saw the ring right where it always was. But I'd just taken a sleeping pill that night. I'd been disoriented, half asleep. That didn't mean, I think we're done here, I said, my voice barely above a whisper. I'll have my lawyer contact you. I turned toward the door, made it 3 steps before Jennifer Caldwell's voice stopped me cold. Mrs. Hayes, if you refuse to cooperate, we'll have no choice but to pursue a competency hearing. A judge will review the medical evidence and make the determination for you. It will be public, messy, and far more difficult for everyone involved. Is that really what you want? I turned back slowly. 7 faces stared at me. 7 people who'd apparently decided among themselves that I was a problem to be managed, a liability to be controlled. What I want, I said, each word deliberate, is to leave this room before I say something I'll regret. You'll hear from my attorney. I walked out. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely press the elevator button. The hallway felt endless, the walls closing in. I kept expecting someone to chase after me, to physically stop me from leaving. But no one came. The elevator arrived, empty. I stepped inside and watched the doors close on conference room B, on the people trying to steal my life, on my son who'd already decided I was losing my mind. 43 seconds to the ground floor. I counted them again. The parking garage was darker than I remembered. My footsteps echoed against concrete as I fumbled for my keys. My car was right where I'd left it, a small miracle given how convinced everyone seemed to be that I couldn't remember basic things. Mrs. Hayes. I spun around, heart hammering. The stranger from earlier stepped out from behind a pillar. Closer now, I could see he was maybe 40, dark hair graying at the temples, wearing a jacket that had seen better days. His face was lined with worry, or maybe exhaustion. Who are you? I demanded, keys clutched between my fingers like a weapon. How do you know what's happening to me? My name is Daniel Reed. I'm a forensic accountant. He held up his hands, showing he meant no harm. And what's happening to you is the same thing that happened to my mother 2 years ago. My breath caught. What? They declared her incompetent, said she had dementia, took control of everything she owned. His voice was tight, with barely controlled anger. By the time I figured out what was really going on, she'd lost her house, her savings, everything. The law firm that handled it, Morrison, Chen and Associates. The same firm, the same people who just tried to convince me I was losing my mind. I don't understand, I said. Why would they? Money. The word was bitter. Your husband's estate is worth what, 15 million, 20, more? These people are vultures, Mrs. Hayes. They find wealthy widows or widowers in vulnerable positions and they manufacture a crisis. Fake medical reports, staged incidents, witness testimony from family members who've been coached to see problems that don't exist. Family members, Caleb, my son. No, I whispered. Caleb wouldn't. He believes I'm sick. He genuinely believes it. Does he? Daniel stepped closer, his eyes searching mine. Or has he been fed a very convincing story by a wife who stands to control millions of dollars if you're declared incompetent? Vanessa, sweet, helpful, concerned Vanessa, who'd been so supportive after Richard died, who'd offered to handle the complicated legal matters, who'd apparently been having private conversations with my husband about my deteriorating mental state. I need proof, I said. If what you're saying is true, I need evidence. Real evidence, not just your word. I know. Daniel pulled out his phone, scrolled through something, then held it up to show me a photograph. This is Dr. Philip Westbrook. He's a real neurologist. He's also been sued 3 times in the past 5 years for providing false medical testimony in competency cases. The charges never stuck, expensive lawyers, but the pattern is clear. The face in the photo was the same one on the letterhead upstairs, but I'd never seen this man in my life. The appointments they claim you attended, Daniel continued. I can prove you were somewhere else on those dates. I've been following this case for weeks, Mrs. Hayes, ever since I saw your husband's obituary and recognized the law firm handling his estate. I knew they'd make a move. I just didn't know when. Why are you helping me? The question came out sharp, suspicious. What do you get out of this? His jaw tightened. My mother died 6 months ago, alone in a state nursing home, convinced she'd lost her mind. She hadn't. She was sharp as ever until the day she died. But they'd taken everything from her, and by the time I could prove it, the money was gone, and she was gone, and his voice cracked. I couldn't save her, but maybe I can save you. The parking garage was silent, except for the hum of fluorescent lights overhead. I stood there, keys still clutched in my fist, trying to process everything he'd just told me. They'll come after you harder now, Daniel said quietly. You walked out of that meeting without signing. That wasn't part of their plan. They'll escalate. They'll stage something public, something that makes you look unstable. They need witnesses, evidence they can present to a judge. How do you know so much about their tactics? Because I've spent 2 years documenting them. I have files on 8 cases just like yours, all the same law firm, all the same pattern, and I've finally found a prosecutor willing to listen, but I need a case that's active, ongoing. I need someone who's willing to fight back. He met my eyes. That's you, Mrs. Hayes. If you're willing. Was I willing to fight my own son? To accuse my daughter-in-law of conspiracy? To expose myself to public scrutiny and legal battles and the possibility that maybe, just maybe, they were right and I really was losing my mind? I thought about Richard, about the life we'd built together, about the business we'd grown from nothing into something worth millions, about the promises we'd made to each other, in sickness and in health, for better or worse, until death do us part. Death had parted us. But I'd be damned if I let anyone steal what we'd created together. Tell me what I need to do, I said. Daniel's expression shifted. Relief, determination, something that might have been hope. First, you need to act normal. Go home. Don't let them know you're suspicious. If they think you're onto them, they'll move faster, get more aggressive. They already think I'm unstable. What difference does it make? The difference between a controlled demolition and an explosion. Right now, they're trying to be subtle. They want your signature, a clean transfer of power. If they realize you're fighting back, they'll go nuclear. Public incidents, emergency psychiatric holds. They'll paint you as a danger to yourself and others. The thought made my blood run cold. They can do that? With the right medical testimony and witness statements? Absolutely. Daniel pulled a business card from his pocket and pressed it into my hand. My number. Call me if anything strange happens. Anything at all. And whatever you do, don't sign anything. Not even something that looks innocuous. I looked down at the card. Daniel Reed, forensic accountant. A cell phone number written in blue ink. How do I know you're not part of this? The question had to be asked. How do I know this isn't just another layer of the con? He smiled, but it was sad. You don't. You have to trust your gut. Same gut that told you something was wrong in that conference room. Same gut that made you stop before signing those papers. He stepped back toward the shadows. But for what it's worth, Mrs. Hayes, I'm the only person in your corner right now who doesn't stand to profit from your destruction. Then he was gone, disappeared into the concrete maze of the parking garage, leaving me alone with a business card and a conspiracy theory that was starting to feel a lot less theoretical. I drove home on autopilot, my mind racing other than the car. Our house, my house now, sat at the end of a quiet cul-de-sac in the suburbs. Richard and I had bought it 32 years ago when Caleb was just a baby and the neighborhood was newly developed. We'd planned to grow old here together. He'd kept his end of that bargain at least. Died in the kitchen we'd renovated twice, surrounded by memories we'd made together. I pulled into the driveway and sat there for a long moment, staring at the front door. Everything looked normal, safe. But normal was a lie now. Safe was an illusion. My phone buzzed. A text from Caleb. Mom, please call me. We need to talk. I deleted it without responding. Inside, the house felt different, like someone had been here. Nothing obviously disturbed, but small things were off. A chair pulled slightly away from the dining table. A cabinet door not quite closed. The picture frame on the mantel turned at a different angle. Paranoia, I told myself. You're seeing threats that don't exist. But then I walked into the kitchen and saw it, my pill organizer, sitting on the counter. I'd left it in the bathroom that morning. I was absolutely certain of it. Someone had been in my house. My heart started hammering again. I pulled out my phone, started to dial 911, then stopped. What would I tell them? That my pill organizer was in the wrong room? That I felt like furniture had been moved? They'd think I was crazy. Exactly what Vanessa and her lawyers wanted. Instead, I called Daniel Reed. He answered on the first ring. Mrs. Hayes, someone was in my house. I tried to keep my voice steady. I came home and things are moved, different. Are you alone there now? Yes, I think so. I haven't checked upstairs. Get out. His voice was sharp, urgent. Right now. Don't hang up. Just walk back to your car and drive somewhere public. A coffee shop, a library, anywhere with people. You think someone's here? The fear in my voice was real now, unmistakable. I think they're building a narrative, and you need to not be alone when the next incident happens. Go, now. I went, grabbed my purse, left the pill organizer where it was, walked out the front door with my phone pressed to my ear, started the car, backed out of the driveway. I'm driving, I told Daniel. What incident? What are you talking about? They need evidence of incompetence, dramatic evidence, things that will look good in court. He paused and I could hear him typing. The next move is usually a public event, something that gets witnesses, maybe police involvement, wandering away from home and being found confused, a car accident caused by alleged disorientation, an outburst at a public place. You think they're going to stage something like that? I think they're going to create the conditions for it, and then they're going to make sure there are plenty of people around to witness your breakdown. I pulled into a Starbucks parking lot, hands shaking too badly to keep driving. This is insane. People don't actually do things like this. People do terrible things for money, Mrs. Hayes. You'd be amazed how far someone will go when millions of dollars are at stake. His voice softened slightly. I know this is overwhelming. I know it sounds like a paranoid fantasy, but my mother said the same thing, right up until the day they committed her to a psychiatric facility for evaluation. The coffee shop was busy with the late morning crowd. Through the window, I could see people ordering lattes, typing on laptops, living normal lives where their families weren't trying to destroy them. What do? I asked. How do I fight something like this? You document everything, you stay alert, and you don't let them isolate you. Daniel's typing stopped. I'm sending you an email right now with instructions, basic security measures, apps to record conversations, a list of what to look for in your house if you think someone's been there again. My phone buzzed with the incoming email. Why are you doing all this for me, really? Silence on the other end. Then, because no one helped my mother. No one believed her when she said something was wrong. Everyone just assumed she was a confused old woman who didn't understand what was happening to her. His voice went rough. She understood perfectly, and she died knowing that everyone she loved thought she was crazy. I won't let that happen to someone else, not if I can stop it. I closed my eyes against the sudden sting of tears. Thank you. Don't thank me yet. We haven't won anything. We haven't even started fighting. He paused. But we will, Mrs. Hayes. We're going to burn their whole scheme down. After we hung up, I sat in the parking lot for 20 minutes, reading through Daniel's email. It was thorough, methodical, paranoid, in a way that would have seemed extreme 48 hours ago. Now it felt like a survival guide. Install these apps. Record all conversations with Vanessa and Caleb. Take photos of your house before you leave and after you return. Keep a detailed journal of your activities with timestamps. Get a medical evaluation from an independent neurologist. Change your locks. Don't eat or drink anything you didn't prepare yourself. That last one made me laugh, a harsh, broken sound. Don't eat anything I didn't prepare myself, like I was living in a spy thriller instead of my own life. But maybe that's exactly what this was, a thriller where I was both the target and the only one who could save myself. My phone rang, Vanessa's name on the screen. I let it go to voicemail, listened to the message a minute later. Eleanor, hi, it's Vanessa. Caleb told me you left the meeting upset and I just wanted to check in. I know this is hard, honey. I know it feels like we're ganging up on you, but we love you. We're trying to protect you. Please call me back, or better yet, come over for dinner tonight. We can talk about everything calmly, just the three of us, okay? I love you. Call me. The message was perfect, concerned, loving, exactly what a caring daughter-in-law would say to her struggling mother-in-law. And every word of it made my skin crawl. I saved the message, added it to a new folder I created, Evidence. Then I opened the Notes app on my phone and started writing. Everything I remembered from the conference room, every detail of the documents they'd shown me, every word Vanessa and Caleb had said. Daniel was right. Documentation was everything. An hour passed, then 2. I bought a coffee I didn't drink and a muffin I couldn't eat. People came and went around me, oblivious to the fact that my entire world was collapsing. Finally, around 2 p.m., I drove to my doctor's office. Dr. Sarah Chen had been my primary care physician for 12 years. If anyone could confirm I wasn't losing my mind, it was her. The receptionist smiled at me. Mrs. Hayes, we weren't expecting you today. Do you have an appointment? No, but I need to see Dr. Chen. It's urgent. Let me check her schedule. The receptionist's fingers flew over her keyboard. She's booked solid today, but if it's truly urgent, I can see if she can squeeze you in between patients. 20 minutes later, I was sitting in Dr. Chen's office, trying to explain why I needed a comprehensive neurological evaluation without sounding paranoid. Dr. Chen listened carefully, her expression neutral. Eleanor, have you been experiencing memory problems, confusion, disorientation? No more than anyone else dealing with grief, I said firmly. My husband died 8 months ago. I'm stressed, I'm sad, but I'm not incompetent. Has anyone suggested you are? So I told her. The whole story came pouring out, the law firm, the medical reports, the amendments to Richard's will, Vanessa's careful concern, Caleb's belief that I was deteriorating. When I finished, Dr. Chen was quiet for a long moment. Eleanor, she said finally, I can order a cognitive assessment, full neurological workup, memory tests, the works. But I need you to understand something. If there's evidence of cognitive decline, there isn't. Then we need to address it for your own well-being. Will you look at these? I pulled out my phone, showed her the documents from the law firm. These reports claim I saw Dr. Westbrook 3 times in March. I have no memory of that. None. And if I was experiencing memory problems severe enough to warrant a diagnosis, wouldn't you have noticed during my regular appointments? Dr. Chen took my phone, scrolled through the documents. Her frown deepened. I would have noticed, and for the record, you've seemed perfectly lucid to me. Grieving, yes. Depressed, possibly, but not cognitively impaired. She handed my phone back. I'll order the evaluation. We'll do a full battery of tests, and I'll document that in my professional opinion, I've seen no signs of dementia or cognitive decline in our interactions. Relief washed over me. Thank you. But Eleanor, she leaned forward, her expression serious. If what you're telling me is true, if people are really trying to falsify your medical records and declare you incompetent, this is a legal matter. You need a lawyer, a good one. I know, I'm working on it. What I didn't tell her was that I was terrified to call my old family lawyer, James Whitmore, because James and Richard had been friends for 30 years, and I had no idea if James was part of the conspiracy or just another person who'd believe I was losing my mind. Trust no one. That's what it had come to. I left Dr. Chen's office with an appointment scheduled for the following week and a fragile sense of hope. At least I'd have medical documentation from a doctor I trusted. The sun was setting as I drove back home. The house was dark, empty. I sat in the car for 5 minutes, staring at the familiar windows, trying to work up the courage to go inside. Finally, I pulled out my phone and opened the camera app, just like Daniel had instructed. photographed the exterior, noted the time, 6:47 p.m. Then I went inside. Nothing seemed disturbed this time. Everything exactly where I'd left it, or where the intruder had left it earlier. I moved through each room slowly, taking photos, looking for anything out of place. In the bedroom, I stopped. My jewelry box was open, just slightly, the lid raised maybe an inch. I always kept it closed. My hand shook as I approached it, lifted the lid fully. My mother's necklace was missing, a simple gold chain with a small diamond pendant, nothing expensive but irreplaceable. She'd given it to me on my wedding day. I searched the box frantically, dumped everything out onto the bed, checked the floor, the nightstand, the bathroom counter. Gone. And then I understood. This was the next move Daniel had warned me about. They were going to say I'd lost it, that I'd misplaced something valuable and couldn't remember where. More evidence of my deteriorating mind. I took photos of the jewelry box, of the scattered jewelry on the bed, of the empty space where the necklace should have been. Then I called Daniel again. "They took something," I said when he answered. "My mother's necklace. It was here this morning and now it's gone." "Don't call the police," he said immediately. "Don't report it stolen. That's what they want. They want you to make a report, and then they'll find it somewhere ridiculous, in the refrigerator, in your car, somewhere that makes you look confused. Then they have an official police report documenting your instability. So I just let them steal from me? For now, yes. We're playing a longer game, Mrs. Hayes." I could hear the frustration in his voice, the shared anger. "I know it's not fair. I know it's infuriating. But we have to be smarter than they are." I looked at the scattered jewelry on my bed, at the empty space where my mother's necklace had been, at the life I'd built being systematically dismantled by people who were supposed to love me. "When?" I asked. "When do we fight back?" "Soon," Daniel promised. "I'm meeting with the prosecutor tomorrow. If she agrees to investigate, we can start building a real case. But I need you to hold on a little longer. Can you do that?" Could I? Could I walk around my own house knowing someone had been inside it? Could I face my son knowing he thought I was incompetent? Could I smile at my daughter-in-law knowing she was orchestrating my destruction? "Yes," I said, because what other choice did I have? I can hold on. After we hung up, I gathered up the jewelry and put it back in the box. Left it open, exactly as I'd found it. Evidence. Everything was evidence now. My phone buzzed with another text from Caleb. "Mom, please, we're worried about you. At least let us know you're okay." I stared at the message for a long time. My son, my only child, the boy I'd raised, who I'd loved with every fiber of my being, who now thought I was losing my mind. Or did he? Daniel's question echoed back. Does he really believe it, or has he been fed a convincing story? I didn't know anymore. I didn't know who to trust, what to believe, how to navigate a world where my own family had become my enemies. But I knew one thing. I wasn't crazy. I wasn't incompetent. And I sure as hell wasn't going to let them take everything Richard and I had built together. I typed back. "I'm fine. Need some space. We'll call soon." Then I blocked out the windows, double-checked all the locks, and set up my phone to record audio all night, just in case someone tried to break in again. Eleanor Hayes, 64 years old, widow and businesswoman, spending the night like a prisoner in her own home, waiting for the next attack she knew was coming. This was my life now, and tomorrow I'd figure out how to fight back. I didn't sleep that night. Every creak of the house settling, every whisper of wind against the windows made me jump. The recording app ran on my phone, capturing nothing but silence and my own restless movements. At 3 a.m., I gave up pretending and went downstairs to make coffee. That's when I saw the email. Subject line, "Concerned about your well-being." Sender, Dr. Philip Westbrook. My hands went cold. I opened it with shaking fingers. "Dear Mrs. Hayes, I hope this message finds you well. I wanted to reach out personally. After reviewing your case files from our sessions in March, I understand you may not recall our appointments. This is not uncommon with patients experiencing cognitive decline. I'm deeply concerned about your decision to refuse treatment and legal protections. Please contact my office at your earliest convenience. Your health and safety are my priority. Warmest regards, Dr. Philip Westbrook, MD. The rage that flooded through me was so intense, I nearly threw the phone across the room. Our sessions that never happened, with a doctor I'd never met. And now he was emailing me directly, creating a digital paper trail of concern, of professional duty, of my alleged refusal to accept help. I forwarded the email to Daniel with a single line, "Is this legal?" His response came back in under a minute. He must not have been sleeping either. "No, but proving it's fraud is the hard part. Save everything. Don't respond." The sky was just starting to lighten when my doorbell rang. 6:47 a.m. I checked the security camera app I'd installed the night before, another item on Daniel's list, and felt my stomach drop. Caleb stood on my front porch holding a bag from my favorite bakery. Behind him, Vanessa sat in their car watching. I thought about not answering, but that would just feed their narrative, wouldn't it? The paranoid mother isolating herself, refusing contact with her loving family. I opened the door, kept the chain on. "Mom." Caleb's face was drawn, exhausted. "Can I come in? Please, I brought cinnamon rolls." The cinnamon rolls we used to share every Sunday morning when he was a kid. The ones Richard would buy on his way home from his Saturday golf games. The weapon of nostalgia, wielded with precision. "It's early, Caleb. I know, I couldn't sleep. I've been parked outside for an hour trying to work up the nerve to knock." He held up the bag. 5 minutes, that's all I'm asking." I looked past him to the car. Vanessa was on her phone, pointedly not looking at us. Stage managing, I thought, letting him play the concerned son while she stayed at a distance. Good cop, bad cop. 5 minutes, I said, and unlatched the chain. He came inside, and the familiar scent of cinnamon and sugar filled my kitchen. For a moment, I could almost pretend everything was normal, almost forget that my son thought I was losing my mind. "Coffee?" I asked, because muscle memory is stronger than pain. "Please." I poured 2 cups. We sat at the kitchen table, the bag of cinnamon rolls between us like a peace offering or a bribe. "Mom, I need you to understand something." Caleb wrapped his hands around his mug, not drinking. "I'm not trying to hurt you. I'm trying to protect you." "From what?" "From yourself. From people who might take advantage of you. From making decisions you're not capable of making anymore." He finally looked at me and his eyes were red. "I've watched you deteriorate over the past year. Slowly at first, then faster after Dad died. And I know you don't see it. That's part of the disease, the lack of awareness." "There is no disease, Caleb." I kept my voice level, calm. "I'm grieving, I'm stressed, but I'm not incompetent. You called me 3 times last week asking the same question. You didn't remember the previous calls." That stopped me. "What question?" "You asked when Dad's life insurance policy would pay out 3 times. I gave you the same answer each time, and each time you seemed surprised, like you were hearing it for the first time." He leaned forward. "Mom, that's not normal grief. That's not stress." I searched my memory frantically. Had I called him about the insurance? Maybe once, but 3 times? No, that didn't happen. I would remember, wouldn't I? "I don't remember that," I said slowly. "Exactly." His voice cracked. "You don't remember, just like you didn't remember Dr. Westbrook's appointments, just like you didn't remember that your wedding ring was on your finger. Mom, please, let us help you. Sign the papers. Let Vanessa and me handle the business stuff while you focus on getting better. And if I don't get better, if this supposed disease progresses," I met his eyes, "what happens to me then? We'll take care of you. We'll make sure you have the best care, the best facilities." "Facilities?" The word tasted like ash. "You mean you'll put me in a home?" "I mean we'll make sure you're safe and comfortable wherever that needs to be." He reached across the table for my hand. I pulled away. "Mom, I love you. Everything I'm doing is because I love you. If you loved me, you'd believe me." My voice broke despite my best efforts. "If you loved me, you'd listen when I tell you I'm fine. You'd question these doctors you've never met, these reports that appeared out of nowhere, this wife who suddenly knows more about my health than I do." His face hardened. Don't bring Vanessa into this. She's been nothing but supportive. She's the one who convinced me to take this seriously instead of just hoping the problems would go away. I bet she did. What's that supposed to mean? I wanted to tell him everything. About Daniel, about the law firm's pattern of fraud, about the conspiracy to steal everything Richard and I had built. But Daniel's warning echoed in my mind. Don't let them know you're onto them. They'll escalate. Nothing, I said. It means nothing. Caleb stood up, leaving his coffee untouched. I have to go. Vanessa has a doctor's appointment. Is she okay? The question came automatically. Years of maternal conditioning. She's fine, just a checkup. He paused at the door. The cinnamon rolls are for you. Try to eat something, okay? You're getting too thin. After he left, I sat alone in my kitchen, staring at the pastry bag. Thought about the version of me that existed in Caleb's mind. Confused, deteriorating, incapable of caring for herself. Thought about how carefully that version had been constructed, detail by detail, phone call by phone call. 3 calls about the insurance policy. Had I really made them? Or had Vanessa, with access to Caleb's phone, crafted text messages that looked like they came from me? With today's technology, it would be easy. Voice recordings, spoofed numbers, fabricated call logs. I pulled out my own phone and checked my call history. 3 outgoing calls to Caleb last week. Yes, but only one about insurance. The other 2 were about scheduling dinner and asking if he'd seen my gardening gloves. I took screenshots, added them to my evidence folder. Then I opened one of the cinnamon rolls and bit into it, because spite is sometimes the best motivation. I was getting too thin. I was deteriorating. I'd show them deteriorating. My phone buzzed. Daniel, can you meet today? 2 p.m. There's someone you need to talk to. I texted back. Where? Public library, downtown branch, 2nd floor, study room C. Come alone. The morning dragged. I tried to keep busy, going through Richard's old files, looking for anything that might help my case. Found our original will, the one we'd written together 10 years ago. Everything split 50-50, with Caleb as the beneficiary only after both of us were gone. Clear, simple, exactly what we'd wanted. No mention of trusts. No concerns about competency, no amendments. I made copies, photographed every page, filed the original in my safety deposit box at the bank, a trip that took an hour because I kept checking my rearview mirror, convinced I was being followed. Maybe I was getting paranoid, or maybe paranoia was just pattern recognition in a world that had turned hostile. The library was busy when I arrived, full of students and retirees and people seeking free air conditioning. I climbed the stairs to the 2nd floor, found study, room C, knocked quietly. Daniel opened the door, and behind him sat a woman I'd never seen before, late 50s, grey hair pulled back in a severe bun, wearing a blazer that screamed law enforcement. Mrs. Hayes, this is Special Prosecutor Rebecca Thornton, Daniel said. She's agreed to hear your case. I stepped inside and Rebecca Thornton stood to shake my hand. Her grip was firm, evaluating. Sit please, she said. Daniel's told me quite a story. I'd like to hear your version. So I told her. Everything from the parking garage warning to the conference room ambush to the missing necklace. Showed her the fake medical reports, the email from Dr. Westbrook, the screenshots of my call history versus Caleb's claims. She listened without interrupting, taking notes on a yellow legal pad. When I finished, she sat back and studied me with cop eyes that had seen every con, every lie, every manipulation. Here's my problem, she said finally. Everything you've shown me could have alternate explanations. The medical reports could be legitimate. The missing necklace could be misplaced. Your son could be genuinely mistaken about the phone calls. None of this proves fraud. My heart sank. So you won't help me? I didn't say that. She tapped her pen against the notepad. I said it's not enough for a criminal case, not yet. But Daniel's shown me 8 other instances of the same pattern with Morrison, Chen, and associates. 8 elderly clients declared incompetent, their assets transferred to family members or third parties, all with the same law firm facilitating. That's not coincidence, that's a pattern. So what do we do? I asked. We catch them in the act. Rebecca leaned forward. They're going to stage something, Mrs. Hayes, something public and dramatic that makes you look unstable. Daniel's right about that, and when they do, we need to be ready to document everything, prove that it was manufactured. How? She exchanged a look with Daniel. You're not going to like it. I already don't like any of this. Tell me. Oh. Daniel spoke up. We wire you, audio and video. You keep living your life normally, but we record everything. Every interaction with Vanessa, with Caleb, with the lawyers. And when they make their move, we have evidence. That's legal. In this state, you only need one-party consent for recordings, Rebecca said. You're the one party. Everything you record in your own conversations is admissible. I thought about walking around wired like some kind of undercover agent, recording my own son, spying on my own family. What if they find the wire? What if they realize I'm onto them? Then they accelerate their timeline and we lose the element of surprise, Rebecca admitted. It's a risk, but right now it's the only way to get the evidence we need for a criminal prosecution. And if we get the evidence, what happens then? Then I bring charges against everyone involved, the lawyers, the doctor, anyone who participated in the fraud. She paused, including Vanessa. What about Caleb? The question hurt to ask. If he really believes I'm sick, if he's just been manipulated. That's for a jury to decide, Rebecca said, not unkindly. But Mrs. Hayes, you need to prepare yourself for the possibility that your son is more involved than you want to believe. Money makes people do terrible things, even to their own mothers. I felt something break inside me at those words, some last fragile hope that Caleb was innocent, that he loved me, that this was all Vanessa's doing, and he was just a pawn. When do we start? I asked. Daniel pulled out a small black device, barely bigger than a button. Right now. This goes under your shirt, clips to your bra. It'll record everything within 20 feet. The battery lasts 16 hours. We'll need to swap it out daily. And video? Your phone. We'll install an app that lets us activate your camera remotely. You just need to keep your phone visible, maybe in your shirt pocket or on the table during conversations. Rebecca stood up. Mrs. Hayes, I want to be very clear about what you're agreeing to. This is dangerous. If they realize you're gathering evidence, they could become desperate. Desperate people do unpredictable things. More dangerous than what they're already doing? I asked. They're trying to steal my life, my agency, my identity. What's more dangerous than that? She smiled, but it was grim. You'd be surprised. Just promise me you'll be careful. Check in with Daniel daily. If anything feels wrong, if you feel threatened in any way, you call 911 first and us second. Understood? Understood. Daniel showed me how to clip the recording device, how to check if it was working, how to download and upload the files each night. The whole setup took 20 minutes. 20 minutes to turn myself into a walking surveillance system. One more thing, Rebecca said as I was leaving. Don't confront them. Don't let on that you know what they're doing. I know it's hard. I know you want to scream at them to demand the truth. But we need them to keep talking, keep planning, keep incriminating themselves. Can you do that? Could I smile at Vanessa while she plotted my destruction? Could I hug Caleb while he worked to have me declared incompetent? Could I pretend to be the confused, deteriorating woman they wanted me to be? Yes, I said, I can do that. I was halfway home when Vanessa called. I almost didn't answer, then remembered the wire, the mission, the need for evidence. Hello? Eleanor, hi. I'm so glad I caught you. Her voice was warm, friendly, toxic. I wanted to apologize for yesterday, the meeting at the law office. I know it was overwhelming, and we probably could have handled it better. It's fine, I said, each word measured. It's not fine, your family, and we should have been more sensitive about how we presented everything. She paused, and I could hear the calculated sympathy in her tone. Look, I'm at the grocery store right now, and I was thinking about picking up ingredients for your favorite chicken masala. Why don't you come over for dinner tonight? Just the three of us. We can talk about everything calmly. Dinner at their house, in their territory, where they could control the environment, the witnesses, the narrative. I don't know, I started. Please, Eleanor. Caleb's been so worried about you. He barely slept last night. And I think we all need to clear the air, as a family. The word family landed like a punch. Family. The people who were supposed to protect you, not destroy you. Okay, I heard myself say. What time? 7. That gives me time to cook something special. Oh, and Eleanor, don't bring anything, just yourself. That's all we need. After she hung up, I pulled over to the side of the road and checked the recording device. The conversation was there, clear as crystal. Vanessa's invitation, her insistence that I come alone, her emphasis on family. I texted Daniel. Dinner at their house tonight, 7 p.m. What do I do? His response was immediate. Go, this could be it. We'll have backup nearby. Address. I sent him the address and he replied with instructions. Keep my phone visible. Try to steer conversation toward the will, the medical reports, anything incriminating. Don't eat or drink anything I didn't see prepared. That last one sent a chill through me. Surely they wouldn't. But people do terrible things for money, Rebecca's words, and she would know. I spent the afternoon preparing like I was going into battle. Charged my phone fully, tested the recording device 3 times. Rehearsed staying calm, playing confused, being the version of Eleanor they expected to see. At 6:45, I pulled up to Caleb and Vanessa's house. It was a nice place, bought with the bonus Caleb got from the family business 3 years ago. Richard had been so proud seeing his son succeed, build a life. The irony was almost funny. Richard's success, funding the house where they'd plot to steal Richard's legacy. Vanessa opened the door before I could knock, apron on, smile bright. Eleanor, come in. Dinner's almost ready. The house smelled amazing, garlic, wine, mushrooms. She'd really committed to the chicken masala. The kitchen was spotless, everything perfectly staged. Caleb sat at the dining table, a glass of red wine in front of him. Mom, he stood, came over to hug me. I let him and hated how much I wanted it to be real. I'm glad you came. Me too, sweetheart. Vanessa poured me a glass of wine. I accepted it but didn't drink. Just held it to be polite. She noticed, of course. Everything was noticed. Are you feeling okay? She asked. You look tired. I didn't sleep well. None of us did. She returned to the stove, stirring something in a pan. This whole situation has been so stressful, but that's why tonight is important. We need to talk honestly as a family. There was that word again, family. We sat down to eat. The chicken masala was perfect, just like I taught Vanessa to make when she and Caleb first got married. She'd been so eager to learn back then, so grateful for the recipes, the techniques, the motherly attention. Had she always been planning this? Or had the idea come later, when Richard's health started failing, and she saw an opportunity? So, Caleb said, pushing food around his plate, we need to talk about what happens next. Next? I asked. With the estate, with your care. He glanced at Vanessa, who gave him an encouraging nod. Mom, we've consulted with several specialists. The consensus is that you need supervision, someone to help you manage daily tasks, medications, financial decisions. I can manage my own life, Caleb. Can you? Vanessa's voice was gentle, devastating. Because the insurance company called me today, they said you've called them 9 times in the past 2 weeks asking about claim status. The claim that was already paid out in May. 9 times. I'd called once, maybe twice, and the claim was paid in June, not May. That's not true, I said. I have the call logs, Eleanor. The insurance rep emailed them to me because she was concerned about the repetitive calls. Vanessa pulled out her phone, showed me a screenshot, names, dates, times. 9 calls, all from my number, but not my calls. Someone's spoofing my phone, I said, making calls that look like they're from me. The look that passed between Caleb and Vanessa was everything I needed to see. Pity, concern, the look you give someone who's lost touch with reality. Mom, that's That's not a thing that happens, Caleb said softly. That's paranoia. It absolutely is a thing. People do it all the time. Scammers, fraudsters. Why would anyone want to impersonate you calling an insurance company? Vanessa's question was reasonable, logical, impossible to answer without sounding insane. Because they're building a case against me, I wanted to scream. Because they're manufacturing evidence of my incompetence. Because you're stealing my life piece by piece and gaslighting me into thinking I'm crazy. But I couldn't say any of that. I could only sit there, wine glass untouched, while they presented their carefully constructed evidence of my deterioration. We've made an appointment for you, Caleb said, with a geriatric psychiatrist. Dr. Linda Morrison, she specializes in cases like yours. Morrison, like the law firm. Morrison, Chen and Associates. Is she related to Martin Morrison? I asked. The lawyer? She's his sister, Vanessa said. That's actually how we found her. Martin recommended her personally. He said she's the best in the state for cognitive assessments. Of course she was. The lawyer's sister. All in the family. Literally. I won't go, I said. Mom, you don't have a choice. Caleb's voice was firm now, the voice he used with difficult employees at work. Either you agree to the evaluation voluntarily, or we petition the court for a mandatory assessment. Either way, you're getting evaluated. And if I refuse the court order, then you'd be held in contempt. They could compel you. It could get ugly. He reached for my hand across the table. I let him take it, felt the wire against my chest recording every word. Please don't make us go that route. Just cooperate. Get the evaluation. If you're right, if there's nothing wrong, then great. The assessment will prove it and we can all move forward. And if the assessment says I'm incompetent, silence. The kind that answers questions without words. Then we proceed with the trust, Vanessa said finally. We take over management of the estate and we make sure you're cared for. It's not a punishment, Eleanor. It's protection. For me or for you. Her smile didn't waver. For all of us. The estate is complicated. The business has dozens of employees depending on good management. Properties that need maintenance. Investments that require oversight. If something happened, if you made a bad decision because of your condition, it could hurt a lot of people. So this is about protecting the employees, the investments. I pulled my hand away from Caleb's. Not about the $15 million you stand to control if I'm declared incompetent. That's not fair, Caleb said, his voice rising. We don't care about the money, we care about you. Really, then explain why you didn't question these medical reports, why you didn't ask to come to one of these alleged appointments with Dr. Westbrook, why you're working with a law firm that has documented history of this exact scheme. I'd said too much, revealed too much. Daniel's warning echoed, don't let them know you're onto them. But the words were already out, hanging in the air like accusations. Vanessa stood up slowly. Eleanor, what are you talking about? What documented history? Nothing. Forget I said anything. No, I think we need to address this. She crossed her arms. Are you suggesting that we're running some kind of scheme? That we're trying to steal from you? I'm suggesting that things don't add up. That I'm being asked to sign away my rights based on medical evidence I can't verify and legal advice from people I don't know. Caleb stood too, his face flushed. You don't know them because you refuse to engage with the process. We've been trying to help you for months and you've fought us every step of the way. Because there's nothing wrong with me. The medical reports say otherwise. The medical reports are fake. The words exploded out of me, carried on months of frustration and fear and rage. I never saw Dr. Westbrook. Those appointments never happened. Someone is manufacturing evidence to make me look incompetent, and you're either part of it or you're too blind to see what's happening. The silence that followed was absolute. Caleb sank back into his chair, face pale. Vanessa's expression was unreadable, and I stood there breathing hard, knowing I'd just blown whatever advantage I had. Mom, Caleb whispered, do you hear yourself? Do you understand how that sounds? It sounds like the truth. It sounds like paranoid delusions. He looked at Vanessa, something passing between them. "We need to call Dr. Morrison tonight." "No." I backed toward the door. "I'm leaving." "Eleanor, wait." Vanessa moved to block my path. "You're clearly in distress. You're not thinking clearly. Please just sit down. Let us help you." "Get out of my way." "I can't let you drive like this. You're upset. You're confused." "I said get out of my way." My voice was shrill now. Exactly the kind of outburst they needed. Exactly the kind of thing that would look great in their documentation of my instability. Caleb pulled out his phone. "I'm calling for help." Who are you calling?" 911. "You're having some kind of episode. You need medical attention." And there it was, the public incident Daniel had warned me about. The emergency that would go on official record, the mother having a breakdown at her son's house, making wild accusations, needing professional intervention. I ran, pushed past Vanessa, grabbed my purse, ran for the door. Behind me I heard Caleb's voice. "Yes, I need emergency psychiatric services. My mother is having a mental health crisis." I made it to my car, hands shaking so badly I could barely get the key in the ignition. Started the engine just as Caleb came running out of the house. "Mom, stop! You can't drive like this." But I was already backing out, tires squealing, running away from my own son like he was a stranger, like he was the enemy, because maybe he was. I drove 3 blocks before pulling over, my whole body shaking. The recording device was still running, capturing my ragged breathing, my barely suppressed sobs. Evidence of my breakdown, evidence of my instability, or evidence of their manipulation. My phone rang. Daniel. "Mrs. Hayes, where are you? Are you safe?" I screwed up, I managed. I confronted them. I told them I knew about the scheme, and now Caleb's calling 911, saying I'm having a crisis. "Where are you right now?" I told him the intersection. "Stay there. I'm sending Rebecca. Don't move. Don't talk to anyone. If police arrive before we do, you tell them you're fine. You just had a disagreement with your family and you're waiting for your attorney. Understood?" "Yes." "Eleanor." His voice softened. "You didn't screw up. You got it on tape. Everything they said tonight, we have it. That's what matters." After he hung up, I sat in my car under a broken street light, watching for police cars, waiting for the consequences of my outburst, thinking about how quickly everything had escalated, how easily they'd provoked me into exactly the reaction they needed. This was the game, and I was losing. A knock on my window made me jump. Rebecca Thornton stood there, badge visible, official and solid and real. I unlocked the door. She slid into the passenger seat. "Let me see the recording device," she said. I pulled it out with shaking hands. She checked it, nodded. "Still running. Good. Now tell me exactly what happened." I told her everything. The dinner, the confrontation, the accusations, Caleb's 911 call. When I finished, she was quiet for a long moment. "You gave them what they wanted," she said finally. "A public breakdown. Paranoid accusations, erratic behavior. It's exactly what they needed for their case." "I know. I'm sorry. But," she held up the recording device, "you also got them on tape admitting to coordinated effort between the law firm and Dr. Morrison. You got Vanessa presenting fabricated call logs. You got Caleb threatening court-ordered evaluation." "This is good, Eleanor. This is very good. It doesn't feel good. Evidence gathering never does, especially when it's your own family." She checked her phone. "Caleb cancelled the 911 call, by the way, about 2 minutes after you left. That stopped me." "He what?" "Cancelled it. Said it was a false alarm, family dispute, no emergency services needed." She showed me her phone screen. She'd been monitoring emergency dispatch. "Want to know what I think?" "What?" "I think they realized they'd gone too far, too fast. They wanted you unstable, not actually in custody where independent doctors might evaluate you. They need to control the narrative, and they can't do that if you're in an ER with psychiatrists who don't work for them. The manipulation was so layered, so calculated, every move designed to push me toward a specific outcome while maintaining the appearance of concern and care." "What now?" I asked. Now we wait for them to make their next move. Because they will. Tonight spooked them. They know you're suspicious, so they'll either back off and regroup or they'll escalate dramatically. Rebecca met my eyes. Either way, you stay wired, you document everything, and you don't confront them again. Can you do that? I thought about seeing Caleb again, about sitting across from him at future meetings, knowing he'd called 911 on his own mother, about smiling at Vanessa while she presented more fabricated evidence of my deterioration. I can do that, I said, but I wasn't sure I believed it. Rebecca drove me home that night. My car stayed parked under that broken streetlight. Another piece of evidence she wanted preserved exactly as it was. Hasty retreat, shaking hands, the physical proof of my panic. She'd already called a tech team to document the scene, take photos, pull any traffic camera footage from the intersection. Every detail mattered now. "You'll stay with someone tonight?" she asked as we pulled into my driveway. "I don't have anyone." The words came out flat, factual. "My husband's dead. My son thinks I'm crazy. I don't have siblings. My friends from before," I stopped. When had I last called any of them? When had they last called me? Grief had isolated me and I'd let it happen. "I'll be fine alone." "That's exactly what I'm worried about." She put the car in park, but didn't kill the engine. "They know you're onto them now. They're going to be desperate, and desperate people make mistakes. But they also get dangerous. You think they'd hurt me? Physically? I think they've already invested too much to back out now. Hundreds of thousands in legal fees, fake medical reports, months of manipulation. If you expose them, they lose everything. Their freedom, their reputations, their access to $15 million. She turned to face me. What wouldn't you do to protect that kind of investment? The question hung between us like smoke. What wouldn't I do? To protect Richard's memory, to keep the business we'd built, to prove I wasn't the failing woman they'd invented. I'd already lied, recorded conversations without disclosure, played along with their games while secretly gathering ammunition. Was I really so different from them? "Get some sleep," Rebecca said. "Daniel will be here at 7 to swap out your recording equipment. Don't open the door for anyone else, not Caleb, not Vanessa, not process servers or concerned neighbors, no one." After she left, I stood in my driveway and looked at the house Richard and I had called home for 3 decades. Every window was dark, every room empty except for me and my ghost and the wire pressed against my chest, still recording the sound of my own breathing. I went inside, locked every door, checked every window, set my phone to record and placed it on my nightstand. Then I lay in bed fully clothed, watching shadows move across the ceiling, waiting for morning. Sleep never came. Instead, around 2 a.m., my phone lit up with an email notification. I almost ignored it, then saw the sender. Richard's old business partner, Tom Chen, as in Chen from Morrison, Chen and Associates. My hands went cold as I opened the message. "Eleanor, I hope you're well. I've been thinking about Richard a lot lately. Miss that old bastard every day. Listen, I heard through the grapevine that you're having some legal complications with the estate. I want you to know that if you need anything at all, I'm here. Richard would want me to look out for you. Let's have lunch this week and talk. Tom." The old bastard. That's what Tom used to call Richard when they played poker on Thursday nights, back before the business got too big and the partnership dissolved. They'd been friends for 40 years, all the way back to college. Tom had been at our wedding. He'd taught Caleb how to play chess. And now he was reaching out at 2 a.m., right after I'd confronted Vanessa and Caleb, offering help with legal complications he supposedly heard about through the grapevine. I screenshot the email, sent it to Daniel with a message. "Is this who I think it is?" His reply came back instantly. "Yes, Tom Chen is Martin Morrison's original partner. The firm was Chen and Morrison before they brought in associates. He's neck deep in this, Eleanor. Do not respond. Do not meet with him." But Tom had been Richard's friend. They'd built their businesses together, celebrated successes, weathered failures. Surely Tom wouldn't be part of a scheme to destroy Richard's widow. Except He would, because $15 million buys a lot of forgotten friendships. I deleted the email without responding, added it to my evidence folder, tried not to think about how many people I trusted who were actually working to destroy me. Dawn came slowly, painting my bedroom in shades of grey. I gave up on sleep around 5 a.m. and went downstairs to make coffee. Found a note slipped under my front door. My heart hammered as I picked it up, using a dish towel so I wouldn't leave fingerprints. The paper was expensive, heavy stock, the handwriting elegant, feminine. Eleanor, I know you're scared. I know you think we're the enemy, but I promise you everything we're doing is out of love. You're not well, and the sooner you accept that, the easier this will be for everyone. Please sign the papers. Please let us help you before something terrible happens. V. Before something terrible happens. Was that concern or threat? I photographed the note from every angle, bagged it in a Ziploc. When Daniel arrived at 7, I handed it to him, along with the recording device from yesterday. He read the note twice, his jaw tightening. This is good. This is threat of harm if you don't comply. Rebecca will love this. It sounds like she's worried about me. It sounds like she's establishing a paper trail before something terrible happens. And then when something terrible does happen, she can point to this note and say, she warned you. She tried to help. She did everything she could. He pulled out a fresh recording device. How are you holding up? I'm wired. I'm paranoid. My son called 911 on me, and my dead husband's best friend is apparently trying to con me out of millions. How do you think I'm holding up? He had the grace to look sympathetic. Fair question, but you're still standing, still fighting. That counts for something. Does it? Because right now it feels like I'm just waiting for them to destroy me. They haven't yet, and they won't, because we're going to stop them first. He handed me the new device. Rebecca wants to move fast now. She's meeting with a judge this morning to present what we have. If he agrees there's probable cause, we can get wiretap authorization for Vanessa and Caleb's phones. Legal wiretaps? The kind that will hold up in court, the kind that might catch them planning their next move. He checked his watch. I have to go. Keep recording. Stay alert. And Eleanor, don't do anything heroic. You're not trained for this. You're a civilian caught in a bad situation, and the best thing you can do is survive it. After he left, I sat in my kitchen drinking cold coffee and reading Richard's old letters. I'd found them in a box in the attic years ago. Correspondence from when he was in the army, before we got married. Young and idealistic, and so certain he was fighting for something that mattered. What was I fighting for? My sanity, my inheritance, my dignity. All of it and none of it, because at the core I was fighting for the right to be believed, the right to say this is happening to me and have someone listen instead of dismissing me as confused, paranoid, deteriorating. My phone rang, unknown number. I almost didn't answer, then remembered everything was being recorded now. Evidence, always evidence. Hello? Mrs. Hayes, this is Dr. Linda Morrison. The voice was professional. Warm, calculated. Your son and daughter-in-law reached out to me about your situation. I understand you're going through a difficult time. The lawyer's sister. The geriatric psychiatrist, another piece of the machine. I'm fine, Dr. Morrison. I don't need an evaluation. I'm sure it feels that way. Many patients in the early stages of cognitive decline don't recognize their own symptoms. It's actually one of the diagnostic criteria. She paused. I had a cancellation this afternoon at 2 p.m. I'd love to see you just for a preliminary chat. No commitment, no pressure, just a conversation. I'm not interested. Mrs. Hayes, I want to be frank with you. Your son is very concerned. He's considering legal action to compel evaluation. It would be much easier for everyone if you came in voluntarily. We could discuss your options, address your concerns, develop a treatment plan that preserves your autonomy as much as possible. Autonomy, what a word, as if I had any left. What happens if I refuse? Then your son proceeds with the court petition. A judge reviews the medical evidence, and Mrs. Hayes, the evidence is quite compelling, and orders mandatory evaluation. You'd be transported by police to a psychiatric facility for a 72-hour hold. During that time, you'd be assessed by multiple doctors, none of whom you'd choose yourself. Her voice remained gentle, sympathetic. Is that really how you want this to go? The threat was clear. Come voluntarily to her office where she'd rubber stamp their diagnosis or be dragged to a psych ward by force. I need to think about it, I managed. Of course, but I should mention your son is planning to file the petition tomorrow morning if he doesn't hear from you today. So think quickly. She gave me her office address. 2 p.m., Mrs. Hayes. I really hope you'll come. After she hung up, I sat there shaking. This was it, the escalation Daniel had predicted. They'd moved from subtle manipulation to outright coercion. Sign the papers or be committed. Give up your rights or lose them by force. I called Rebecca. They're threatening me with involuntary commitment, I said without preamble. Dr. Morrison just called. She says Caleb's filing a petition tomorrow if I don't show up for evaluation today. Can they do that? Can they actually have you committed? With the medical evidence they fabricated? Maybe. Probably depends on the judge. I heard her typing. But here's the thing. Once you're in for a 72-hour hold, they can extend it, especially if you're combative or delusional during the evaluation. They could keep you locked up for weeks while they process the competency hearing. The room tilted. Locked up. In a psychiatric facility, while they liquidated my assets, sold my properties, dissolved the business Richard and I built from nothing. What do? You go to the appointment. Her answer was immediate, certain. You wear the wire, you let Dr. Morrison evaluate you, and you stay calm, lucid, cooperative. Show her there's nothing wrong with you. She's part of this. She's Martin Morrison's sister. I know. But we need her on record examining you. We need to document that even with all their manufactured evidence, you present as completely competent. Rebecca's voice softened. Eleanor, I know this is terrifying, but you're going to walk in there. You're going to be yourself, smart, articulate, aware, and you're going to make her work very hard to justify a diagnosis of incompetence. Can you do that? Could I? Could I sit in that office while a doctor who was bought and paid for tried to find reasons to declare me unfit? Could I answer questions designed to trap me, take tests rigged to make me fail, all while pretending I didn't know exactly what was happening? Yes, I said, I can do that. Good. I'm going to be in the parking lot. If anything goes wrong, if you feel unsafe, you text me one word, red. I'll have officers there in 2 minutes. Understood? Understood. I spent the next few hours preparing like a student before finals. Reviewed current events so I could answer questions about recent news. Practice mental math, memory exercises, spatial reasoning puzzles, anything that might appear on a cognitive assessment. At 1:45, I drove to Dr. Morrison's office in a medical building downtown. The reception area was decorated in calming blues and greens, soft music playing, magazines fanned across a coffee table, everything designed to soothe anxious patients. I was not soothed. Mrs. Hayes, the receptionist, smiled at me. Dr. Morrison is ready for you, right this way. The office was exactly what I expected. Leather couch, abstract art, tissue strategically placed. Dr. Morrison stood to greet me, mid-50s, grey hair, kind eyes that probably made her very good at her job, or very good at pretending. Eleanor, thank you so much for coming. She gestured to the couch. Please sit. Can I get you water, tea? I'm fine. I sat, keeping my phone visible in my lap, the recording device hidden under my blouse capturing every word. I want to start by saying this isn't an adversarial process. I'm not here to judge you or label you. I'm here to help. She settled into the chair across from me, notepad ready. Your family is concerned. Can you tell me why you think that is? The first trap. If I said they were lying, I'd sound paranoid. If I agreed I was having problems, I'd be confirming their narrative. I think they're misinterpreting normal grief as something more serious, I said carefully. My husband died 8 months ago. I've been sad, distracted, forgetful sometimes. But that's not disease, that's loss. Of course. She wrote something down. Tell me about Richard. How long were you married? 36 years. That's a beautiful partnership. His death must have been devastating. It was. My throat tightened despite my determination to stay clinical. He had a heart attack in our kitchen. I was upstairs and I heard him fall, and by the time I got down there, I stopped, breathed. He was already gone. I'm so sorry. Her sympathy seemed genuine, which somehow made it worse. Have you experienced any confusion about the circumstances of his death? Any difficulty accepting that he's gone? Another trap. No, I know exactly what happened. I was there. And since then, have you noticed any changes in your thinking, your memory, your ability to manage daily tasks? I've noticed that I'm sad, that I miss my husband, that I sometimes forget to eat because cooking for one feels pointless. I met her eyes. I haven't noticed any cognitive decline. Your son mentioned you've called him repeatedly asking the same questions. Do you remember those calls? I remember calling him once about the life insurance payout. He claims I called 3 times. I have phone records showing one call. I pulled out my phone, showed her the screenshots. Someone's either lying or confused, Dr. Morrison, and I don't think it's me. She glanced at the screenshots but didn't really look. Sometimes our records don't capture everything, especially when we're under stress. My records are digital timestamps. They don't lie. No, but they can be misinterpreted. She made another note. Eleanor, I'd like to do some simple cognitive tests, just to establish a baseline. Is that all right? Do I have a choice? Of course you do. This is voluntary. Except it wasn't. If I refused, she'd note my non-cooperation, use it as evidence of resistance to care, lack of insight into my condition. Fine, I said, let's get this over with. The tests were exactly what I'd prepared for. Name the current president. Count backwards from 100 by sevens. Remember 3 words and recall them 5 minutes later. Draw a clock showing 3:30. Simple task designed to detect obvious impairment. I passed every single one. Flawlessly. Dr. Morrison's expression didn't change, but I saw the slight tightening around her eyes. This wasn't going the way she'd expected. You're doing very well, she said. Let's try something a bit more complex. The next round was harder. Executive function tests, abstract reasoning, complex memory tasks. But I'd been running a multi-million-dollar business for 30 years. My brain was sharp, trained, disciplined. I passed those too. Eleanor, these results are quite good, she said finally, setting down her clipboard. Honestly, I'm not seeing the deficits your family described. Hope flared in my chest. Maybe she was honest. Maybe she'd... Which concerns me, she continued, because fluctuating cognition can be a sign of certain types of dementia. Good days and bad days. You might be having a good day today. And there it was. No matter how well I performed, she'd find a way to spin it as pathology. Or, I said, I might just be fine, and my family might be wrong. Families are rarely wrong about these things. They see the changes we miss in clinical settings. She leaned forward. Eleanor, I'm going to recommend a more comprehensive evaluation. Brain scans, blood work, extended neuropsychological testing, and I think it would be wise to implement some safeguards while we investigate further. Perhaps a temporary conservatorship just until we know more. No, the word came out hard, final. Absolutely not. I understand you're frightened. I'm not frightened, I'm angry. You've spent an hour testing me, I've passed every single assessment, and you're still recommending I be declared incompetent. Does that seem medically sound to you, Dr. Morrison? Or does it seem like you're working backwards from a predetermined conclusion? Her face went carefully blank. That's a very serious accusation. It's a very serious situation. Your brother is the lawyer handling my case. You're the doctor evaluating me. That's not a conflict of interest. My brother and I don't discuss cases. Our professional lives are completely separate. Really? So he didn't recommend you to my son? Didn't suggest that his sister would be the perfect person to evaluate his difficult client? Eleanor, this kind of paranoid thinking. Stop, I stood up. Stop calling me paranoid. Stop pathologizing every reasonable question I ask. I came here voluntarily. I took your tests. I passed them. And now I'm leaving. If you leave now, I'll have to note your hostile behavior in my report, your refusal to cooperate with recommended treatment. That won't help your case. I don't have a case. I have a life, one I'm trying to protect from people who want to steal it. I headed for the door. Write whatever you want in your report, Dr. Morrison. I'll see you in court. I walked out with my head high and my hands shaking, made it to my car before the adrenaline crash hit, sat in the parking lot with my forehead pressed against the steering wheel, trying to breathe. My phone buzzed. Rebecca. Got every word. She tried to trap you 6 different ways and you didn't fall for any of them. That's good work, Eleanor. But it didn't feel good. It felt like I just burned another bridge, made another enemy, given them more ammunition for their narrative of the difficult, combative, unstable Eleanor Hayes. I drove home through afternoon traffic, my mind spinning. Dr. Morrison would write her report. She'd note my excellent test performance. She'd have to, it was documented. But she'd spin it as anomalous, inconsistent with family reports, possibly indicating manipulation or conscious effort to deceive. They'd use my competence against me. Proof that I was smart enough to fake wellness, to hide my true condition, to resist the help I desperately needed. There was no winning. Every move I made, they had a counter. Every defense I mounted, they reinterpreted as pathology. When I pulled into my driveway, Caleb's car was parked in front of my house. He sat on the front steps, head in his hands. He looked up when I approached, and his eyes were red. Mom, his voice cracked, we need to talk. Every instinct screamed at me to walk past him, to lock my door and call Rebecca and let the lawyers handle it. But he was my son, the baby I'd carried for 9 months, the toddler who'd clung to my leg on his first day of school, the teenager who'd cried on my shoulder after his first heartbreak. Okay, I said, let's talk. We went inside. I didn't offer coffee or small talk, just sat across from him in the living room and waited. Dr. Morrison called me, he said. She said you walked out of the evaluation. I completed the evaluation. I passed every test. Then I left when she tried to recommend conservatorship, despite clear evidence of competence. She said you were hostile, paranoid, that you accused her of conspiring with her brother. Are you asking me if that's true or telling me what you've already decided to believe? He flinched. I'm trying to understand what's happening to you. Nothing is happening to me. Why can't you hear that? My voice rose despite my best efforts. I'm the same person I've always been. Sad, yes. Grieving, yes. But not incompetent, not crazy, not whatever diagnosis they're trying to pin on me. Then explain the phone calls, the insurance claims, the missing necklace. Explain why you can't remember things that definitely happened. I can't explain them because they didn't happen. Someone is manufacturing evidence, Caleb. Someone is gaslighting me, and you're helping them do it. Who? Who would do that? He stood up, pacing now. Vanessa, the woman who's taken care of you since Dad died, the lawyers who are trying to protect Dad's legacy, Dr. Morrison, who's one of the top geriatric psychiatrists in the state. You think they're all lying? All of them. Yes. The word exploded out. Yes, I think they're all lying, because that's what con artists do, Caleb. They build networks. They create systems of corroboration. They make their lies so big, so coordinated, that the truth sounds insane by comparison. He stared at me like I was a stranger, like I was exactly the paranoid, delusional woman they'd told him I was. I can't do this anymore, he said quietly. I can't watch you destroy yourself. I'm not destroying myself. You're destroying me. I'm trying to save you. His voice broke. Don't you understand? I'm trying to save you before you lose everything, before you make decisions that can't be undone, before you hurt yourself or someone else, before this disease takes you completely. There is no disease, I was screaming now, all pretense of calm gone. Your father and I built that business from nothing. We made every decision together for 36 years. And now you want to take it away from me because some doctors you've never met before produced reports about appointments that never happened? The reports are real, Mom. The medical evidence is real. Show me. I grabbed my phone, pulled up the photos I'd taken of the fake documents. Show me one piece of evidence that I actually attended these appointments. Show me a receptionist who remembers checking me in. Show me a parking receipt, a credit card charge, a calendar entry. Show me anything other than paperwork that could have been fabricated by anyone with a computer and a printer. He grabbed the phone, scrolled through the images. For just a second, one brief, shining second, I saw doubt flicker across his face. Then it was gone. You could have deleted those things, he said. If you were having memory problems, you might not have kept records. The logic was perfect, unassailable. Every absence of evidence became evidence itself. Every gap in the record proof of my deterioration. I want you to leave, I said. Mom, get out of my house, Caleb. My voice was ice now, frozen over to keep from shattering. Get out and don't come back until you're ready to believe me over strangers who are lying to your face. They're not strangers. They're doctors, lawyers, professionals who have no reason to lie. They have 15 million reasons. Did you ever think of that? Did you ever stop to wonder who benefits if I'm declared incompetent? Vanessa and I don't care about the money. Then sign a document giving up any claim to it. Put it in writing that you're doing this out of love, not greed. That if I'm declared incompetent, every penny goes to charity instead of to you. I crossed my arms. If this is really about my well-being and not the inheritance, that shouldn't be a problem, right? The silence that followed was deafening. You know, I can't do that, he said finally. Why not? Because Dad wanted us to have it. He wanted to take care of us. Dad wanted me to have it. He wanted me to manage it. He trusted me with everything he built, but you're willing to throw that away because some psychiatrist you met last week thinks I'm confused? I'm willing to listen to medical professionals over my bias, over my hope that you're fine when clearly you're not. He moved toward the door. I'm filing the petition tomorrow, Mom. The judge will order evaluation, and when the court-appointed doctors confirm what Dr. Morrison found. She didn't find anything. I passed her tests. Then maybe you'll accept the help you need. He paused at the door. I love you. Even if you can't see it right now, everything I'm doing is because I love you. After he left, I stood in my empty living room and felt something break inside me. Not my mind, not my memory, but something deeper. The trust between mother and child, the bond that was supposed to be unbreakable. They'd broken it. Carefully, systematically, with lies and manipulation and manufactured evidence. And maybe I'd helped. Maybe my anger, my resistance, my refusal to play the victim had pushed Caleb further into their camp. Maybe if I'd been weaker, more compliant, more like the broken woman they wanted me to be, he would have questioned their narrative instead of embracing it. But I couldn't be that woman. I couldn't give up who I was to make their lives more comfortable. My phone rang. Daniel, I heard, he said. Rebecca's been monitoring. The petition will be filed tomorrow morning. Emergency hearing likely set for end of week. So what do I do? Just wait for them to drag me into court? No, we go on offense. I heard papers rustling. Rebecca got the wiretap authorization. Starting tonight, we'll have real-time access to Vanessa and Caleb's phone conversations. If they slip up, if they say anything incriminating, we'll have it. And if they don't, then we present what we have, your recordings from the dinner, Dr. Morrison's evaluation showing you're competent despite her attempt to spin it otherwise. The pattern of fraud across 8 other cases. We fight them, Eleanor. We fight them with everything we've got. I looked around my living room, at the photos of Richard and me at our wedding, at Caleb's baby pictures, at 36 years of memories displayed on shelves and walls, at the life I was fighting to keep. Okay, I said, let's fight. That night I didn't sleep again. Just lay in bed, listening to the house settle around me, waiting for morning, waiting for the petition, waiting for whatever came next. At 3 a.m., my phone buzzed with a message from an unknown number. I opened it with shaking hands. It was a photo of me leaving Dr. Morrison's office, taken from across the parking lot, zoomed in on my face, twisted with anger and fear. Below it, a single line of text. Doesn't look stable to me. No signature, no identification. Just the photo and the message and the clear implication that someone was watching me, documenting me, building their case frame by frame. I screenshot it, sent it to Daniel and Rebecca, added it to my evidence folder, which was growing thicker by the hour. Then I got out of bed and checked every lock, every window, every possible entry point. Someone had been in my house before. Someone was following me now, and tomorrow they'd be dragging me into court to explain why I deserved to keep my own life. I stood in my dark kitchen as dawn approached, watching the sky lighten through the window, and thought about Richard, about what he'd do if he were here, if he could see what was happening to the woman he'd loved, the business he'd built, the son he'd raised. He'd fight, I thought. He'd fight with everything he had, so that's what I'd do. Because I was Eleanor Hayes, 64 years old, widow and businesswoman, and target of the most sophisticated con I'd ever seen. And I wasn't done yet, not even close. The petition arrived by courier at 8:47 a.m. I watched through my front window as a man in a uniform walked up my driveway, knocked twice, waited exactly 30 seconds, then left the envelope wedged in my doorframe. Official, legal, unavoidable. I let it sit there for 10 minutes before I could make myself retrieve it. The paper was heavy, formal, decorated with court seals and case numbers that reduced my life to administrative procedure. In the matter of Eleanor Margaret Hayes, alleged incapacitated person, the header read. Below that, paragraphs of legal language that boiled down to one simple claim. I was no longer capable of managing my own affairs, and the court needed to intervene for my own protection. Caleb's signature at the bottom, his name typed beneath it, petitioner and concerned son. I had given birth to him in a hospital room during a thunderstorm, Richard holding my hand while I screamed through contractions that felt like they'd split me in half. I'd nursed him through colic and chickenpox and that terrible bout of pneumonia when he was 7. I'd taught him to drive, to balance a checkbook, to stand up for himself, and now he was standing up against me. My phone rang. Rebecca. Don't panic, she said before I could speak. This is expected. We knew it was coming. The hearing's in 3 days. My voice sounded distant, like it belonged to someone else. They're asking for emergency temporary conservatorship pending full evaluation. I know. I got the filing notice 10 minutes ago. Listen to me, Eleanor. We have a counter strategy. Daniel's been going through the wiretap recordings from last night, and we caught something. Something big. My heart kicked up. What? Vanessa and Martin Morrison on the phone at 11 p.m. She was panicking about your performance with Dr. Morrison, saying you were too coherent and they needed to accelerate the medical documentation. He told her to calm down, that they'd handled worse cases, that the judge they'd drawn was sympathetic to elder protection issues and would grant the emergency order regardless of your test results. They know the judge? More than no, Judge Patricia Reeves has ruled on 6 of the 8 prior cases Daniel documented. Every single time she sided with the petitioners, granted conservatorships, approved asset transfers, dismissed appeals from the alleged incapacitated persons. Rebecca paused. Eleanor, I think she's part of it. The room spun. A judge. They'd corrupted a judge. This wasn't just a law firm running a scam. This was systemic, institutional, a machine designed to devour people like me and spit out legal paperwork proving it was for our own good. What do? We file a motion to accuse. Conflict of interest, pattern of rulings that suggest bias. It's a long shot, but what? We can't just let her hear the case if she's working with them. We don't have proof she's working with them. We have a pattern that could be coincidence, or could be a judge who genuinely believes in protecting vulnerable seniors, and doesn't look too closely at the evidence because she trusts the medical professionals. Rebecca's voice went hard. This is the problem with these schemes, Eleanor. Everyone involved has plausible deniability. Everyone's just doing their job, following procedures, acting in good faith. Except the aggregate effect is fraud. I sank into a chair, the petition crumpling in my grip. So what do I do? Go to court in 3 days and hope we get lucky? No. You go to court prepared to fight. I'm filing an emergency motion this morning for you to be represented by independent counsel. That's me. I'm also requesting a continuance to allow time for additional medical evaluation by doctors you choose, not doctors connected to the petitioner. And I'm submitting your recordings as evidence of possible fraud and undue influence. Will any of that work? Honestly, I don't know, but we're going to try. She paused. How are you holding up? Really? Was I holding up? I hadn't slept in days. I was wearing yesterday's clothes. I'd forgotten to eat breakfast and maybe dinner the night before. My hand shook constantly now, and I couldn't tell if it was fear or rage or just exhaustion. I'm fine, I lied. No, you're not, and that's okay. You're allowed to fall apart a little, Eleanor. You're allowed to be human. But I wasn't allowed. If I fell apart, if I showed any weakness, they'd use it as evidence. Look how unstable she is. Look how she can't cope. This proves she needs protection. I have to go, I said. Daniel's coming over to swap recording equipment. After we hung up, I sat in my silent house and read through the petition line by line. The allegations were detailed, specific, devastating. Phone calls I didn't remember making, conversations I'd allegedly had with neighbors about people following me, an incident at the bank where I'd supposedly tried to withdraw $50,000 in cash and became agitated and confused when the teller asked for identification. None of it had happened, but it was all documented, notarized, submitted to the court as fact. I pulled up my bank app, checked my transaction history. No attempted withdrawal, no visits to the bank at all in the past month except my trip to the safety deposit box. More fabricated evidence, more lies built on lies. Daniel arrived 20 minutes later with coffee and bagels I wouldn't eat. He looked as exhausted as I felt. This case was consuming him too, pulling him back into the nightmare that had destroyed his mother. Rebecca told you about the wiretap, he asked, setting up his laptop on my kitchen table. She told me we caught Vanessa panicking. It's better than that. Listen to this. He pulled up an audio file, hit play. Vanessa's voice tight with stress. Don't understand why she's not cooperating. Linda said she aced every single cognitive test. Every one, Martin. How am I supposed to explain that? Martin Morrison's voice, smooth and unconcerned. You don't explain it. Linda's report will note the excellent performance, but contextualize it as inconsistent with observed behavior at home. Classic presentation of someone consciously compensating for deficits. The judge understands these nuances. But what if Eleanor brings her own doctors? What if she won't have time? The emergency hearing is in 3 days. By the time she organizes independent evaluation, we'll already have temporary conservatorship in place. Once we have that, we control access. We control the narrative. We control everything. A pause. Then Vanessa quieter. I didn't think it would be this hard. I thought she'd just give up. They never give up easily. That's why we build overwhelming cases. That's why we have procedures, protocols, documentation. The system is designed to protect people like Eleanor from their own deterioration and from their own resistance to accepting help. He sounded like he was teaching a class, like he'd given this speech before. Don't lose your nerve now, Vanessa. We're almost there. 3 more days and you'll have access to everything. You can finally pay off those debts and move forward with your life. The debts. There it was. Confirmation that this was about money, about Vanessa's financial desperation, about using Richard's estate to solve her problems. The recording ended. I sat there staring at Daniel's laptop, feeling something shift inside me. All this time, part of me had hoped Caleb knew, that he was complicit, aware, choosing money over his mother with open eyes. But he didn't know. He really believed I was sick. Vanessa had manipulated him as thoroughly as she'd manipulated everyone else, feeding him lies until he couldn't see truth anymore. My son was a victim too, and somehow that made it worse. We can use this, Daniel said. It's not a full confession, but it establishes financial motive and coordination between Vanessa and the law firm. Rebecca thinks, I want to talk to Caleb. The words came out before I'd fully formed the thought. Daniel's face went carefully neutral. That's not a good idea. I want him to hear this. I want him to know what his wife is doing. Eleanor, he's not going to believe it. He'll think we fabricated the recording, or that you manipulated me into creating it, or that it's taken out of context. People who've been gaslit don't suddenly wake up when you present evidence. They dig in deeper. I have to try. He's my son. He's also the petitioner trying to have you declared incompetent. Anything you say to him can and will be used against you in court. Daniel closed his laptop. I know you love him. I know you want to save him from this. But right now, he's on their side, and approaching him will only give them ammunition. He was right. I knew he was right. But the need to reach my son, to make him understand, to break through the wall of lies Vanessa had built around him, it was overwhelming. What if we played him the recording anonymously, left it somewhere he'd find it? Then Vanessa would know we have wiretaps, and they'd change their communication patterns. We'd lose our intelligence advantage right when we need it most. Daniel's voice softened. I know this is torture. I know watching your son work against you is the worst part of all this. But we're so close to having enough for criminal charges. Once we have that, once we can prove to Caleb that his wife is a criminal, then maybe he'll listen, but not before. I wanted to argue. Wanted to insist that my relationship with my son was more important than legal strategy. But Daniel had been through this. He'd watched his mother suffer while he gathered evidence, built cases, tried to save her through proper channels, and she died before he could. Okay, I said, we wait, we play it smart. Thank you. He pulled out the fresh recording device. The hearing's Thursday at 2 p.m. Rebecca's filing all our motions today. In the meantime, you need to do something for me. What? Go somewhere public, be seen, interact with people who can testify that you're lucid, competent, functioning normally. The petition claims you're deteriorating rapidly, that you're a danger to yourself, so prove them wrong. Where am I supposed to go? Anywhere, the library, a coffee shop, your hair salon, somewhere you're a regular where people know you. He handed me the device. And keep this on. Document everything. We need to build a counter-narrative to theirs. So that's what I did. I showered, dressed in clothes that didn't scream woman falling apart, and drove to the salon where I'd been getting my hair cut for 15 years. Tina, the stylist, greeted me with her usual enthusiasm and never once suggested I seem confused or unstable. Just a trim today? She asked, settling me into her chair. Actually, I want to go shorter, something different, something that says I'm not done yet. She grinned. I love it. Let's make you dangerous. While she worked, we talked about her daughter's college applications, about the summer heat, about a new restaurant downtown that apparently had the best pasta she'd eaten in years. Normal conversation, the kind I'd had 1,000 times before, and the whole time the recording device captured it. Evidence that Eleanor Hayes could hold a coherent conversation, remember details from previous appointments, make decisions about her appearance. After the salon, I went to the bookstore, bought 3 novels and a magazine, made small talk with the cashier about authors we both loved. Then to the grocery store, where I ran into my former neighbor Margaret and spent 20 minutes catching up on her grandson's wedding. By the time I got home, I had hours of recorded interactions. Proof that I was functioning, engaged, present. Not the deteriorating woman described in the petition. But would it be enough? Rebecca called that evening with an update. Motion to recuse was denied. Judge Reeves will hear the case Thursday. However, I got the continuance for additional medical evaluation. We have 2 weeks after the emergency hearing to present alternative assessments. Did we get independent counsel approved? Yes, I'm officially your attorney of record as of 4 p.m. today, which means I got access to all the evidence they're submitting. Eleanor, you need to prepare yourself. It's bad. How bad? They have affidavits from 6 people claiming to have witnessed your deterioration. Your mailman says you've accused him of stealing your mail. Your gardener says you forgot you'd hired him and called the police for trespassing. A grocery store manager says you left the store without paying and had to be reminded to come back and settle your bill. None of that happened. I've never accused anyone of stealing mail. I don't have a gardener, and I've never walked out of a store without paying. I know, but they have signed statements, and the people who signed them, they exist. They're real, which means either Vanessa paid them to lie or they're part of the network, part of the machine that does this over and over. The scope of it was staggering. How many people did you need to corrupt to pull off a fraud this complete? How much planning? How much coordination? Rebecca, how do we fight this? If they can produce witnesses who'll say anything, if they can fabricate entire incidents with documentation and testimony, how do we prove the truth? We catch them in a contradiction. We find someone willing to recant. We prove financial connections between the witnesses and the law firm. She paused. Or we get a full confession on tape. You think they'll confess? I think Vanessa's cracking. The wiretap recordings show her getting more stressed, more desperate. She's making mistakes. And people who make mistakes eventually make the big one, the one that exposes everything. We have 3 days until the hearing. Then we hope she makes her mistake in the next 3 days. That night, I couldn't stay in my house. The walls felt like they were closing in, every shadow a threat, every sound a potential intruder. So I drove to a 24-hour diner and sat in a booth drinking bad coffee, the recording device hidden under my shirt, my phone on the table, recording video of absolutely nothing interesting. Just in case. Everything was just in case now. Around midnight, a text from an unknown number. You're making this harder than it needs to be. I screenshot it, sent it to Rebecca and Daniel, added it to the evidence folder that was becoming my entire life. Then I texted back, "Who is this?" The response came immediately. "Someone trying to help you. Sign the papers, Eleanor. Accept the conservatorship. Make this easy on everyone, especially yourself." Why would I do that? Because fighting will only make you look worse. The judge sees dozens of these cases. She knows the signs. She knows when someone's in denial about their condition. Every motion you file, every recording you make, every conspiracy theory you spin, it all just proves you're not thinking clearly. They knew about the recordings. Either they'd found the device, or someone had told them, or they were guessing. But they knew. The truth will come out, I typed. The truth is you're a sick woman being taken advantage of by a con artist who's convinced you that everyone who loves you is the enemy. That's what the judge will see. That's what everyone will see. The con artist had to be Daniel. They were going to paint him as the villain, the opportunist exploiting a vulnerable widow, feeding her paranoid delusions for his own gain. And maybe some people would believe it. Maybe even Caleb would believe it. "Leave me alone," I texted. "We will, as soon as you sign the papers and accept the help you need. Until then, we'll do whatever it takes to protect you, even from yourself." The messages stopped. I sat in that diner booth until 3 a.m., watching the recording device capture hours of me sitting alone, looking exactly like the isolated, deteriorating woman they claimed I was. Thursday morning arrived too fast and too slow. I dressed in my most conservative suit, the one I wore to business meetings and funerals. Did my makeup carefully, trying to hide the circles under my eyes, the weight I'd lost, the visible toll this was taking. Rebecca met me in the courthouse lobby at 1:30. She looked sharp, professional, ready for battle. "Remember," she said, Don't react to anything they say. Don't argue with their witnesses. Don't lose your temper. The judge is watching you for signs of instability, so we give her nothing. You are calm, competent, and confident. Understood. Understood. We walked into the courtroom together. It was smaller than I'd expected, more bureaucratic than dramatic. Judge Reeves sat at the bench reviewing paperwork. Martin Morrison and Jennifer Caldwell occupied the petitioner's table, expensive suits and leather briefcases arrayed like weapons. And beside them, Caleb, my son, who wouldn't meet my eyes. Vanessa wasn't there. Interesting. All rise, the bailiff called, though we were already standing. The court is now in session, the Honourable Judge Patricia Reeves presiding. Judge Reeves looked up. She was younger than I'd expected, maybe late 40s, with steel grey hair and an expression that gave nothing away. Be seated. We're here for an emergency petition for temporary conservatorship in the matter of Eleanor Hayes. Let's begin with the petitioner's case. Mr. Morrison? Martin Morrison stood, smooth and confident. Your Honour, this is a straightforward matter of elder protection. Mrs. Hayes is a 64-year-old widow experiencing rapid cognitive decline. Her son, Mr. Caleb Hayes, has watched his mother deteriorate over the past year and is seeking court intervention to ensure she receives appropriate care and that her late husband's estate is protected from potential mismanagement. He laid out their case like a prosecutor. The medical reports from Dr. Westbrook, Dr. Morrison's evaluation, the affidavits from witnesses, the documented incidents of confusion, paranoia, erratic behavior. Each piece of evidence felt like a nail in my coffin. We're not seeking to punish Mrs. Hayes or strip her of dignity, Morrison concluded. We're seeking to protect her from unscrupulous individuals who might exploit her condition, from financial decisions she's not equipped to make, from herself when her judgment fails. We ask the court to grant emergency temporary conservatorship to Mr. Hayes, with full authority to manage his mother's medical and financial affairs until a comprehensive evaluation can be completed. Judge Reeves made notes. Didn't look at me once. Ms. Thornton? Response? Rebecca stood. Your Honour, this petition is based on fabricated evidence and false testimony. Mrs. Hayes is not incompetent. She has passed every legitimate cognitive assessment. She is the victim of a coordinated fraud designed to steal her assets under the guise of elder protection. I watched Judge Reeves's face, saw the flicker of skepticism, the slight tightening around her mouth. She'd heard this defense before, probably dozens of times, and she'd never believed it. That's a serious accusation, the judge said. Do you have evidence of this alleged fraud? We have recorded conversations between the petitioner's wife and the law firm discussing financial motives for this petition. We have documented patterns of similar cases involving the same attorneys and medical professionals. We have phone records disproving alleged incidents. And we have hours of recorded interaction showing Mrs. Hayes functioning at a completely normal cognitive level. Your Honour, Morrison interrupted, those recordings were made without proper disclosure. Mrs. Hayes has been conducting covert surveillance of her own family. In this state, single-party consent is sufficient, Rebecca shot back. Mrs. Hayes had every legal right to record her own conversations. The recordings prove nothing except that Mrs. Hayes is capable of appearing lucid when she chooses to, Morrison continued, which is consistent with certain types of dementia that present intermittently. The medical evidence is clear and comprehensive. Ms. Thornton's conspiracy theory is exactly the kind of paranoid thinking we'd expect from someone in Mrs. Hayes's condition. Judge Reeves held up a hand. I'll review all submitted evidence. But let me be clear. Absent compelling proof of fraud, this court takes medical testimony seriously. If multiple doctors have evaluated Mrs. Hayes and found cognitive impairment, I'm inclined to grant protective measures while further evaluation proceeds. Your Honour, please, Rebecca said, give Mrs. Hayes the opportunity to speak for herself. Let the court see that she's competent, aware, and being victimized by people she trusted. The judge looked at me for the first time, really looked like she was trying to see past my clothes and makeup to the truth underneath. Mrs. Hayes, would you like to address the court? Every eye in the room turned to me. Caleb finally looked up, his face pale and miserable. Martin Morrison watched with calculated interest. Rebecca gave me a tiny nod of encouragement. I stood on shaking legs. Your Honor, everything they've told you is a lie. I am not sick. I am not confused. I am being systematically gaslit by my daughter-in-law and a law firm that has run this exact scam on at least 8 other people. My voice was steady, clear. My husband died 8 months ago, and I've been grieving. But grief is not dementia. Sadness is not incompetence. And the fact that I'm fighting to protect what my husband and I built together is not proof that I'm paranoid. It's proof that I'm rational. Mrs. Hayes, Judge Reeves said, the medical evidence is fabricated. I never saw Dr. Westbrook. Those appointments never happened, and Dr. Morrison's evaluation concluded I was competent despite her attempt to spin the results otherwise. I passed every test she gave me, every single one. Fluctuating cognition is a known presentation. It's not fluctuating. I'm telling you the truth and you're choosing to believe lies. My voice rose despite my best efforts. How is that justice? How is it protection to steal someone's life based on forged documents and paid testimony? Rebecca touched my arm gently, a warning. I was losing control, doing exactly what they wanted. I took a breath, forced myself to speak calmly. Your Honor, I'm asking for the chance to prove I'm competent. Give me 2 weeks to get independent medical evaluation. Let me present witnesses who'll testify to my normal functioning. Please don't make a decision based solely on evidence provided by people who financially benefit from declaring me incompetent. Judge Reeves was quiet for a long moment. Then she looked at Caleb. Mr. Hayes, you're the petitioner. You're also Mrs. Hayes' son. This is clearly a difficult situation for your family. Can you speak to your mother's allegations? Caleb stood slowly. His hands were shaking. Your Honor, I don't know what to believe anymore. I've watched my mother change over the past year. I've seen the memory problems, the confusion, the paranoid accusations. But I've also seen moments where she seems perfectly fine, like the woman I've always known. His voice cracked. The doctors say she's sick. My wife says she's sick, but my mother says it's all a conspiracy, and I just want the truth. I want to know if I'm helping my mother or destroying her. For the first time since this nightmare began, I heard doubt in his voice. Real, genuine doubt. Judge Reeves heard it too. I'm going to order a continuance, she said. 2 weeks for independent medical evaluation to be conducted by a doctor of Mrs. Hayes' choosing and paid for by the estate. During that time, I'm granting limited temporary conservatorship. Mr. Hayes will have authority over major financial decisions only, with the requirement that he provide detailed accounting of any transactions. Mrs. Hayes retains control over her residence, daily affairs, and medical decisions. We'll reconvene in 2 weeks with the new evaluation, at which time I'll make a final determination. It wasn't a win, but it wasn't a total loss either. Court adjourned. As people gathered their papers and filed out, Caleb approached me. Rebecca moved to intercept, but I waved her off. Mom, he said quietly, I heard what you said about the appointments with Dr. Westbrook, about things not adding up. Are you finally listening? I don't know, maybe. He looked exhausted, broken. She's been acting strange, stressed about money, secretive with her phone. And when I told her about the hearing today, she said she couldn't come because she had a migraine. But I saw her this morning and she seemed fine. She didn't come because she knew I might say something that would expose her, I said. She's been lying to you, Caleb, about me, about my health, about everything. Or you're lying to me about her. But he said it without conviction. I don't know who to trust. Trust yourself. Trust what you see with your own eyes instead of what other people tell you to believe. I touched his arm. I know I haven't been perfect. I know I've been short-tempered and defensive and maybe paranoid seeming. But I'm your mother, and I have never, ever lied to you. Not once in your entire life. He pulled away. I need to think. I need to figure this out. Then figure it out fast, because in 2 weeks, Judge Reeves is going to decide whether I keep my life or lose it. And your testimony will matter. He left without answering. I watched him go, my son who was finally starting to question the lies, and hoped it wasn't too late. Rebecca pulled me aside. We need to talk, privately. We found an empty conference room down the hall. She closed the door and turned to me with an expression I couldn't read. Daniel just called. The wiretap picked up something. Vanessa and Martin Morrison 30 minutes ago, right before the hearing. Eleanor, she's planning something that happens tonight. My blood went cold. What? We don't know exactly. The conversation was vague, but Morrison told her tonight's the best opportunity, and she said, "Are you sure this will work?" And he said, "It always works." Then something about making sure you're home alone and that she has access. Access to what? My house? My computer? My medical records? We need to set a trap, I said. Let her come. Let her do whatever she's planning and catch her on camera. Rebecca shook her head. Too dangerous. If she's planning to hurt you, she's planning to frame me for something that makes me look unstable. Probably another incident she can document and submit to the judge. My mind was racing now, fitting pieces together. She needs something dramatic before the 2-week continuance is up. Something that proves I'm a danger to myself. So we give it to her, but we control the narrative. Eleanor, I'm not a victim anymore, Rebecca. I'm done being their target. It's time to become the hunter. And for the first time in weeks, I felt something other than fear. I felt ready. Rebecca spent an hour trying to talk me out of it. We sat in that courthouse conference room while she listed every reason why my plan was reckless, dangerous, potentially illegal. You're not law enforcement, she said for the 3rd time. You can't set up a sting operation in your own house. If something goes wrong, then you'll have officers right outside. You said it yourself. We need her caught in the act. We need irrefutable proof that she's manufacturing evidence. I leaned forward. This is our chance, maybe our only chance. Daniel arrived 20 minutes later with equipment I didn't know existed outside of spy movies. Tiny cameras that looked like smoke detectors, audio recorders hidden in picture frames, motion sensors that would alert his phone the second someone entered my house. We'll have 3 angles on every room, he explained, spreading a blueprint of my house across the table. Living room, kitchen, bedroom, office, anywhere she might go, we'll see it, and Rebecca will have a team positioned 2 blocks away. Anything happens, they're there in 90 seconds. 90 seconds is a long time if she's violent, Rebecca muttered. She's not going to be violent. She's going to plant evidence, stage a scene, something that makes me look unstable. I met her eyes. This is what they do. This is what they've always done, and we're going to catch them doing it. By 6 p.m., my house was wired like a television studio. Cameras in every corner, microphones in every room. Daniel tested each one twice, making sure we had clear audio and video from every possible angle. You don't have to stay here, he said quietly, while Rebecca coordinated with her team outside. We could set this up and you could leave. Let her break in, plant whatever she's planning to plant, and catch her without putting you at risk. If I'm not here, she might not come, or she might get suspicious and abort. I shook my head. No, I need to be here. I need to see her face when she realizes she's been caught. He studied me for a long moment. This isn't just about evidence anymore, is it? This is personal. She tried to steal my life. She manipulated my son into thinking I was crazy. She violated every bond of family and trust for money. My voice went hard. You're damn right it's personal. Just don't do anything that compromises the case. When she comes, you stay calm. You let her incriminate herself, and then you let Rebecca's team handle the arrest. He handed me a small device that looked like a car key fob. Panic button. You press this, everyone comes running. Keep it on you at all times. After they left, the house felt different. Every shadow concealed a camera. Every silence was being recorded. I was simultaneously alone and under constant surveillance, the most documented woman in America, waiting to catch a predator. I made dinner I didn't eat, turned on the TV to a show I didn't watch, went through the motions of normal evening routine while my heart hammered against my ribs and my fingers kept finding the panic button in my pocket. At 9:47 p.m., my phone buzzed with a text from Daniel. Motion sensor triggered, side gate, someone's in your backyard. I killed the TV, killed the lights, moved to the window and peered through the curtains. A figure moved through my yard, staying close to the fence line, avoiding the path where motion sensor lights would trigger. Too dark to see clearly, but the silhouette was familiar, slender, female, moving with purpose. Vanessa. My phone buzzed again. Don't engage. Let her make her move. We're recording everything. I backed away from the window and positioned myself in the kitchen, where 3 different cameras had clear sight lines. Pulled out my phone and pretended to scroll through it, just a woman alone at home, unaware she was about to have company. The sound of the back door opening was so quiet I almost missed it. She had a key. Of course she had a key. I'd given it to her years ago, back when she was my daughter-in-law, who I trusted to water my plants when we traveled. Footsteps in the hallway, soft, careful. She was trying to be quiet. I kept my eyes on my phone, my back to the doorway, every muscle tensed. Eleanor, Vanessa's voice, pitched to sound concerned. Eleanor, are you here? Your back door was unlocked. I was worried. Establishing her excuse. Worried daughter-in-law checking on unstable mother-in-law. Witnesses would testify she let herself in out of concern, not malice. I turned slowly, letting surprise register on my face. Vanessa, what are you doing here? I called you 3 times and you didn't answer. After today's hearing, I was afraid. She moved closer and I saw she was carrying a large purse. I'm so glad you're okay. I was imagining all sorts of terrible things. I'm fine. I was just having a quiet evening. I watched her eyes dart around the kitchen, cataloging, planning. You shouldn't have worried. Of course I worried. Your family. She set her purse on the counter and I heard something inside it clink. Glass, maybe, or pills. Eleanor, can we talk? Really talk? I feel like there's been so much misunderstanding between us. Daniel's mother's case was reopened. Turned out the nursing home where she died had been getting kickbacks from Morrison's firm for every patient they referred to the conservatorship pipeline. 8 other families contacted Rebecca with similar stories. The scope of the fraud was staggering. Millions stolen over nearly a decade. Dozens of victims. A machine that kept running because everyone involved had incentive to keep it hidden. The emergency conservatorship was dissolved. All charges against me dropped. My assets unfrozen, my rights restored, my reputation slowly rebuilt through news coverage of the scandal. But restoration wasn't the same as repair. 3 months later, I sat in the office of the family business, the one Richard and I had built, the one I'd nearly lost, and looked at the quarterly reports. Revenue was up, employee morale was recovering. The business was thriving, but I was exhausted. You should hire a CEO, Caleb said from the doorway. We'd been slowly rebuilding our relationship. Careful conversations over coffee, supervised by nothing but our own commitment to honesty. Someone to run day-to-day operations while you focus on the parts you love. Is that your way of saying, I look tired? It's my way of saying you don't have to do everything yourself anymore. You proved you could. You fought for this and won. But that doesn't mean you have to keep fighting forever. He came in, sat down. Dad would want you to enjoy what you built, not exhaust yourself protecting it. He was right. Richard would have hated seeing me run myself into the ground out of stubborn determination to prove I could handle everything alone. I'll think about it, I said. That's all I'm asking. He paused. I'm starting therapy next week. Dealing with everything that happened, the manipulation, the guilt, the fact that I almost destroyed my own mother because I was too proud to admit I was drowning financially. That's good. That's really good, Caleb. Would you? He started again. Would you consider coming with me? Not every session, but maybe once or twice, so we can work through this together. The old Eleanor, the one from before this nightmare, would have said yes immediately, would have jumped at the chance to fix things, to heal the rift, to restore what we'd lost. But I wasn't that Eleanor anymore. I'll think about it, I said again. I need time, Caleb. I need space to figure out who I am now after everything that happened, and I need you to be okay with that. I am. I will be. He stood up. Take your time, Mom. I'm not going anywhere. After he left, I sat in Richard's office, my office now, and thought about second chances, about trust that's been broken and whether it can be truly repaired, about loving someone who hurt you and whether forgiveness was obligation or choice. I didn't have answers. Maybe I never would, but I had my life back, my business, my freedom, my right to make my own choices, even if those choices were difficult or lonely or imperfect. That afternoon, I drove to Daniel's office. He was buried in case files for the ongoing prosecutions, his forensic accounting skills in high demand now that the whole conspiracy was being unraveled. Eleanor, he said, looking up with genuine smile. How are you? I'm okay. Better than okay. I sat down across from his desk. I wanted to thank you for believing me when no one else did, for risking your own credibility to help a stranger. You weren't a stranger. You were someone going through what my mother went through. I couldn't save her, but I could save you. He set down his pen. Besides, you did most of the saving yourself. You're the one who refused to give up, who kept fighting even when it seemed hopeless. Because you gave me the tools to fight, the knowledge that I wasn't crazy, that there was a pattern, that I wasn't alone. I pulled an envelope from my purse. I know you did this out of principle, not for payment, but I want you to have this anyway. He opened the envelope, saw the check, immediately tried to hand it back. Eleanor, no, I can't accept this. It's not payment, it's funding for a foundation. I'm starting an advocacy organization for elderly victims of financial fraud. Legal support, investigative resources, public awareness campaigns. I want you to run it. He stared at the check, $50,000, just the seed money, then at me. You're serious? Completely. What happened to your mother, to me, to dozens of others, it's still happening. There are more Vanessas out there, more Morrison law firms, more judges who don't look closely enough. We can't stop all of them, but we can fight back. We can make it harder. We can give people the resources to protect themselves. I leaned forward. You saved me, Daniel. Now help me save others. He was quiet for a long moment, then he nodded. Okay, yes, let's do it. 6 months after the nightmare began, I stood in the parking garage where a stranger had first warned me not to sign anything upstairs. The same concrete pillars, the same fluorescent lights, the same elevator that had carried me to that conference room where everything changed. But I was different now, harder in some ways, softer in others, more cautious about who I trusted, but more willing to fight when trust was betrayed, scarred but not broken, damaged but not destroyed. I thought about what I'd learned, that love isn't enough when it's built on lies, that family can be your greatest betrayal or your strongest support, and sometimes you don't know which until it's tested, that your mind is your own and no one has the right to take it from you, no matter how many doctors or lawyers or judges they line up to say otherwise. I thought about Vanessa sitting in prison, her 15-year sentence, a fraction of the lives she tried to destroy, about Caleb slowly rebuilding himself in therapy, learning to question his own certainties, about Richard, who'd never know how close I came to losing everything we'd built together. And I thought about myself, Eleanor Hayes, 64 years old, survivor of the most sophisticated con I'd ever seen, older now than when this started, wiser maybe, definitely more careful about who got access to my life. My phone buzzed. A text from the foundation's first client, a woman whose daughter was trying to have her declared incompetent. They're using the same law firm, different city, same tactics. Can you help? I would. Because if there was one thing I'd learned from all of this, it was that staying silent about abuse, even abuse dressed up as protection, only helps the abusers. On my way, I texted back. Then I walked to my car, started the engine, and drove toward the next fight. Because that's what survivors do. We don't just survive, we use what nearly destroyed us to protect others. And maybe that's the real victory, not just keeping what's yours, but using your strength to help others keep what's theirs. I was Eleanor Hayes. I'd been targeted, manipulated, gaslit, and nearly erased. But I was still here, still standing, still fighting, and I wasn't done yet, not even close. The work of protecting vulnerable people from predators who saw them as nothing more than dollar signs, that work would never be done. There would always be another Vanessa, another Morrison, another scheme dressed up as concern and care and protection. But there would also be people like me, like Daniel, like Rebecca, people willing to look past the polished presentations and fancy letterhead to see the truth underneath. That had to count for something. That had to matter. I merged onto the highway, the Foundation's address programmed into my GPS, and felt something I hadn't felt in months. Not happiness. I wasn't sure I'd ever feel that exactly the same way again. But purpose, direction, the knowledge that my suffering hadn't been meaningless, that it could be transformed into something that mattered. Behind me, the parking garage where this nightmare began grew smaller in my rearview mirror. Ahead of me, someone who needed help, who needed to know they weren't crazy, who needed someone to believe them when the whole world said they were wrong. I pressed the accelerator and drove forward, toward the next battle, toward the next person who needed saving, toward whatever came next. Because if I'd learned anything from the past 6 months, it was this. You don't know how strong you are until strength is your only option. You don't know what you're capable of until someone tries to take everything from you. And when they do, when they come for your money or your freedom or your very sanity, you fight. With everything you have, with everyone who'll stand beside you, with the truth as your weapon and your voice as your shield. You fight. And sometimes, if you're lucky and stubborn and refuse to give up, even when giving up would be easier, sometimes you win. I'd won my battle. Now I'd help others win theirs. That seemed like a pretty good way to spend the rest of my life. Eleanor Hayes, 64 years old, survivor and fighter, driving into an uncertain future with her eyes wide open and her will unbroken. Still here, still standing, still me. And that in the end was all that really mattered.